Big news. Avery Bradley, their starting shooting guard, has decided against going to Orlando to finish out the season in the bubble. He has a son who has a respiratory illnesses, an issue with his respiratory system. And because of that, Avery wants to stay home with him. And I get it, because that's, George, as you know, part of the thing with this virus, young people don't feel as vulnerable, and we aren't, generally. But you have people in your family, your parents, grandparents, and then younger people who have illnesses that would make them vulnerable. And so I get an Avery Bradley, because you could say, well, Avery could go play and leave his family behind. Now, his whole family would likely stay behind, which is obviously tough for him to be apart from them for basically 3 months. But even if somehow, it was just his son left behind, maybe with a grandparent or something, he still could be, his son could still get it somehow at home, and then Avery wouldn't be able to go see him. So I'm fine with this decision by Avery Bradley. I mean, family first, man. As much as a championship ring would matter and, the money you'll make and all that, none of that can replace family. And he'd probably never get over it if something happened to his son while he was playing in that bubble.
I always find it interesting when they point to athletes and they say, oh, you don't have to play if you don't like the rules. You don't have to. You're signing up to do this. You do this. Then they tell you to shut up and dribble. They tell you to just go entertain us, right?
Right.
But and that it's a choice. If you don't like the rules, then you don't have to play. And a guy now is choosing to exercise his choice for good reason. I mean, even if he just didn't feel comfortable himself, it still is his own personal choice. And you have a bunch of people slandering the dude and mad at him. I'm like, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
It's either a choice, which it obviously is, and this is no different than if Avery Bradley was like, yo, I'm done playing. I don't want to play anymore. I'm out. I'm retiring. Same exact, and then decided to come back the next season. Same scenario, but we're dealing with something that is obviously unprecedented, and most importantly, which I feel like I've always been on the side of, which is we don't know what the long-term effects are, even of asymptomatic people. We don't know that because people have had respiratory issues and all of that, which we don't know. And it's so hard to make good quality decisions in the absence of information.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the thing here, when we look at it from a basketball standpoint, now people look at Avery Bradley, he averaged 8 points a game. He only played about half the game, 24 minutes. It's not that big of a loss. This is a big loss. And I'm on the record. I picked the Clippers to beat the Lakers in the playoffs and win the championship. I think it's very close. I think the difference in these two teams is slight. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, I think those two are better than Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, but it's the depth of the Clippers. And that's my thing. The Clippers had two things over the Lakers in my estimation that led me to pick them to win it. Depth and the dog. And if you know what I mean by the dog, I'm talking about the attitude. I know that the Lakers are hungry. LeBron certainly is hungry. But the Clippers from 1 to 15 are hungry, and they got a lot of dogs on that team. Kawhi is a quiet dog, but he's a dog. Patrick Beverly, nothing but dog, all right? Like atomic dog. Marcus Morris. They got Montrezl Harrell. I mean, these dudes are tough, they're gritty, and they are hungry. And now that gap in depth and the dog widens because Avery Bradley is a dog. But he's one of the few that, I mean, Rondo's a dog, but he's older. Can he fit next to LeBron because he doesn't shoot the three very well? LeBron, obviously, we know how mentally tough he is. Danny Green is tested and tried, and he's got some dog in him. But down the line, I think the Clippers have far more than the Lakers. And now you're taking away one of the Lakers' mentally toughest players. And here's the other thing, and he doesn't do this all the time, In fact, this was a season high for him. But Avery Bradley, in the one game of the 3 that the Lakers won against the Clippers, Avery Bradley hit 6 threes, George, and scored a season high 24 points.
He did
and
that.
so it's a big loss. Where you stand, it makes me a little more confident that the Clippers will prevail.
Chris, this is a case where you won't back off even when you're given evidence that something will not happen. The Lakers should still be favored over the Clippers.
Why?
You are 100% right about them having dogs. I do believe, especially Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverly, even though they aren't necessarily the most skilled guys in the league, they add a lot of value with their energy, their defense, their toughness, all of those things. But you are discounting the thing that matters the absolute most in the playoffs. That is star power. And
Clippers don't have it?
Hold on. Is that stars?
I'm trying to save you from yourself.
No, stars win playoff series. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so who has the better 2 stars? LeBron James and Anthony Davis, or Kawhi Leonard and Paul George?
I'll give the Lakers the better 2 stars.
Thank you, sir. And
I think it goes LeBron, Kawhi, AD, Paul George.
I 100% agree with that.
Here's the thing, though, George.
Hold on. I let you give you everything.
For 4 years in Miami, LeBron and Wade were probably the best 2 players in there. In fact, the one time they weren't the best 2 players against Oklahoma City, they won. Durant was second best player, but Wade and LeBron won. The other series, they had the 2 best players against Dallas. They lost. They had the 2 best players against San Antonio because by that time, Duncan was old. They split.
Here is the thing. When you look at LeBron's, when their championship in Cleveland in 15-16, this man with half of a team, still went, huh?
In 2015-16?
Yeah, when
half of a team?
I'm talking. Excuse me, Chris. In the previous year, yes,
okay,
in the year they lost, in 2015, LeBron went out and torched the entire field. He went out and was the best player on the court. Period.
He's gonna be the best player on the court.
So,
that's not a question.
And that always gives you an advantage.
He's been the best player on the court
Paul
in probably
George,
8 of his 9 finals, and he's lost 5 of those 8.
Some of those he was up against the Warriors and the Spurs, which you mentioned when he was young in Cleveland, and he was
I didn't even count that one because I said 8 out of his 9. Duncan was the best player at that one.
Yeah, and when you had and when they played against the Warriors, they were just outmatched. And the year that they did win, it was because Draymond was gone. Like that's what gave them the advantage in that year.
Okay. Why were they outmatched? But they had LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love against Steph, Clay, and Draymond. That's a pretty. I'd actually take LeBron, Kyrie, and Love just individually. Who's better?
Are you
the 3 of those guys from Golden State? But it's about playing as a team.
It is. And when you look at when the season was halted, the Lakers were 49-14. The Clippers were 44-20. So they were the best team in the league at that point. Granted,
but
the
they
Clippers
lost twice to the Clippers, once without Paul George.
How many times have we seen teams go over in the year and then
how many times have we seen teams have the best record in the regular season and it's irrelevant? I don't care about that. LeBron never
You're the
had
one
the
who
best
brought
record
it up.
in the East. You did. You brought up the Lakers were 49 and
hold on. But the point I was making
Clippers
in
missed
that
half the game. Their stars were missing games.
That's exactly the point, Chris, is that the Clippers have had their team. They haven't had a chance to gel. No, they haven't had a chance to gel. And they haven't been able to practice together during this whole pandemic. Granted, it's a situation where all their players should be healthy when they come back. But aside from right before the pandemic hit and the season was halted, that was their best stretch where they won 7 out of their last 10 games. But before
The
that,
Clippers?
they won
played well
7.
the whole year.
Chris, they were inconsistent. Would you not agree with that? They have
I would
losses
not
to,
agree with that.
They have
I would not
losses
agree
to,
with that.
In February, they lost to Sacramento.
I
They
mean,
lost to
it's the
Minnesota.
NBA. You
They
gonna
lost to
lose to
Sacramento
teams.
twice. They lost to Sacramento twice in 30 days, Chris.
Fine.
I'm
I mean,
just saying that
they won 44 out of what they were 44-20. I don't think that's inconsistent. When Kawhi missed 13, George missed 22.
They had.
Patrick Beverly missed 16.
Would you agree?
Shamet missed 17.
Would you agree that this team has not had a chance to gel and play together very much?
They weren't doing that. Like
I'm
Kawhi
asking you,
wasn't
have they
practicing.
they had a chance?
But they still were very good.
Now, I never said they weren't a bad
Without
team,
that.
but when your team can't play together and you don't have a chance to use all them dogs that you talk about, all the pieces and all of that, when you don't have a chance to gel, it doesn't matter how much of a collection of talent that you have. You can put the whole entire all-star team together against a very good quality team who is gelled, who knows their plays, who has good instincts together. And that's the difference, because we have heard rumors about the Lakers practicing in Bel Air in secret.
Well, rumors. We don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
And they don't think the Clippers haven't been getting together either. So they look. It's close, and I am giving the Lakers a shot. But that argument is not good because the Clippers
and I got something else for you, Chris.
Well, we can get to that. We got to get to the call to the listeners, but you got 2.5 hours to redeem yourself from that first segment. So. All right, 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Does the loss of Avery Bradley spell doom for the Lakers? And who are you picking to win the West? L.A. Clippers or L.A. Lakers?
Marcel in Mississippi, welcome to the Odd Couple.
Hey, what's up, Chris and George? Happy Worship Wednesday.
Thank you, my man. We appreciate that.
No problem. Hey, since it's Worship Wednesday, I feel like it's appropriate to say this. Now, George, before you called me a hater, I called in one time you was on the show when we was talking about Joe Burrow on tour. But on this Worship Wednesday, Chris been beating you like a church tambourine and Holy Ghost out.
I like it. Rack that.
Rack it.
Somebody got to tell him the truth. You know, get rid of that strong delusion.
Anyway, I got to agree with Chris, man. This hurts the Lakers, man. Avery Bradley is a 3-and-D type player, but like I remember when LeBron and Kawhi went at it during that finals, and every time Kawhi stepped on the court, LeBron looking like he trembling in his boots, man. So it's
man, if y'all don't stop,
I ain't say that, but wow, that's a strong statement. Go ahead, expound.
You could look it up on YouTube. Coach Pop put Kawhi back in the game to guard LeBron. LeBron's like, oh man, not this guy again. And like, you know, the next year they won. So it's like, come on, man. I think it definitely helps the Clippers in this aspect.
Listen, it does help the Clippers, but that is absolute foolishness.
I'm not going to go fully
Marcel,
there.
talk about shaking. One of the greatest players, could be the greatest player of all time, shaking in his boots.
I think he averaged
Leonard.
28 in that series against Kawhi,
man. Stop it. Max in Georgia, welcome to the Odd Couple, man.
Max is Rob Jr., so he's probably going to say agree with you, George.
Of course.
Hey, I had to get in on this. To me, this is a no question. The Lakers' best player is unproven in the playoffs, and their most experienced player, or the most experienced
the
player,
Clippers
the
or the Lakers?
Anymore. For the Lakers.
So what is it?
To me, their most proven, their best player is unproven in the playoffs, and their most experienced player isn't their best player. And I think when you combine that,
you mean among the role players?
No. He's saying that Anthony Davis is the best player on the team.
Correct.
Really? Better than LeBron?
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers, granted, in the fourth quarter, he disappears, but so does LeBron. They're both not on.
No, LeBron doesn't disappear. I like it. I think you're Max. I think you're making a good point. I think they're one of their key. I mean, obviously their key player, their second best player. and he's inexperienced, and you're right, he's unproven in the playoffs. So I'll give you that. I just don't agree with he's better than LeBron. But go ahead, you're making a strong point. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, Avery Bradley, to me, the loss is big in the fact that he's familiar with Doc Rivers. He's familiar with game plans. He's familiar with situational plays. If they line up against the Clippers, it could be trouble without him.
All right. That's a good call. I mean, I didn't agree that AD is better than LeBron, but otherwise I think he made good points.
Yeah, I mean, the loss of Avery Bradley is going to be huge, but I still got so much left to say. But there are so many people who want to weigh in on this. And Anthony in Maryland, welcome to the Odd Couple.
How you doing?
What's up?
Yeah, so first of all, before I say, Chris, I'm very surprised. Today you decided to, usually you're with the Lakers, but today it looks like you switched sides, man.
No, I've been, Rob G, I've been with the Clippers. I picked the Lakers at the start of the season, then I switched like early on.
Yeah, Anthony, Chris has been wrong for about 5 months now. But
yeah, he's a Lakers guy. So, I've been with the Clippers most of the year.
All right, well, I have to, well, first of all, I still think the Lakers can overcome this huge challenge here. They're about to pick up J.R. Smith, who's proven in the playoffs.
Come on, man.
He can be a very productive player in the playoffs. Also, we've seen various roles. We've seen some superstars.
The same one that didn't know the score of the game. That one.
No. I'm not. So what I'm saying is, there are former players who've talked about how it's role players that win the championships, not necessarily the star players all the time. And when you look at what happened in that game that you're mentioning, LeBron had 51, Kevin Love had like 20-something, but then what happened to the rest of the players? So role players matter here. Role players make the difference. And even though Avery Bradley isn't playing, you still have a quality three-point shooter in J.R. Smith, who I don't think will make that mistake again.
All right, role players are key. There's no doubt. No, anybody that knows basketball will tell you role players are key. And let's face it, a lot of years, role players make the big play.
Correct. And what do wounded dogs do, Chris? When they get painted in the corner, that's what the Lakers are going to do in the playoffs. Amir in Philly, welcome to the Odd Couple.
What up, you guys? What up, CB?
What's up, my man? How you doing?
Yeah, Chris, I'm doing good. I just missed my man, Rob. But Chris,
he'll be back tomorrow.
You'll be shocked, brother. You'll be shocked what I'm about to say. I agree with you 1,000. Let me talk, but 1,000% that this just cripples the Lakers and it hurts the Lakers. But CB, can we? I feel like this, CB. The whole year, everybody said the Clippers were better, deeper, and some people think Kawhi's better because LeBron's older and stuff like that. I just think if this man pulls this off, we can't keep saying he's not the greatest. Like
LeBron?
Let me talk. We can't keep saying that. There's no way he can catch Michael Jordan when if he does this will be a second thing that we just never seen Jordan do. There's never been a team that we've seen Jordan like. There's no way Michael Jordan can beat that team. That team has this many this is that, and then he beat him. Like if he pulls this off with less than like he doesn't even have.
He's got. Look, I hear what you're saying. But let's not make it out like he's playing with a bunch of chumps.
You just pumped the Clippers up they have everybody. They have,
all right, let me
depth
speak,
at the wing. And
I think the Clippers are better. But a lot of people have the Lakers as the favorite. It's not like, maybe most people, you have them as the favorite. Many others have them as a favorite. They've got two of the best three players in the series.
Correct.
I think they're a slight underdog, but many people, if not most, have them as the favorite. So I'm just saying for Amir to act like LeBron's about to beat Kawhi and Paul George with, JR, Rondo, Danny Green, Alex Caruso, and that's it. That's not it. You got Anthony Davis, too. Dwight Howard, you got some other good players. So that's all I'm saying. Don't make it out like it's going to be the biggest upset in history if they win. That's all I'm saying.
Chris, you sat there and tried to tell us that the loss of Avery Bradley, which is huge because he is a 3-and-D guy, he adds a ton of value that doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Like he's one of those guys. He's good energy, great on D, does the right thing, great teammate, all of those things. But at the end of the day, when teams lose players, whether it's to injury, whether it's to suspension, whether it's to whatever sickness, whatever else it is, they find a way to adjust. And the greatest players and the greatest players of all time do it.
New Orleans Pelicans TV color analyst, NBA champion. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good, fellas. Hey, I gotta tell you, I love when people mess up sayings, like really popular sayings. It's like, this is a sprint. This is a sprint, not a marathon. No. Hey. Avery Johnson used to always say in the locker room, we got too many Indians and not enough Chiefs. Like, wait a minute. That's not right.
He used to say that during like a pregame speech.
Yes. We got too many Indians and not enough Chiefs. Like, okay.
Hey, even though players mess up, That's
right.
Antonio, look, I think the loss of Avery Bradley is big. I'm not saying the Lakers, because LeBron and AD are so good, they can't overcome it.
Right.
I picked the Clippers. I think this gives the Clippers even more of an advantage. Where are you at on the Avery Bradley loss and what that could mean for this team?
Well, first and foremost, I really admire him for what he has done. I think we understand the power of sports in this culture, and for him to actually take a stand by that and say, you know what, I'm not going because his family is more important than what he has going on as far as sports is concerned. First and foremost, I commend him for being a man of his word and doing that. Second,
right.
I think he's a pretty big piece of what they do. As far as perimeter defense is concerned, as far as an outside threat is concerned. But that's not to say that role players can be replaced. You know, I was a role player in the league for 13 years, and I always understood, man, look, I know I can be replaced. LeBron James can't be replaced. Anthony Davis can't be replaced. There are certain guys that bring things to the table that can't be replaced. And as much as I love Avery Bradley as a person and as a player, maybe there's a player out there that can bring something different that can benefit the Lakers in a different manner.
Yep. Right. Maybe Kyle Kuzma goes up from 12.5 points a game to 20 points a game and actually starts living up to expectations. But Antonio, I want to segue a second to the team that you cover, the Pelicans. And a lot of people have been talking about, you know, that the NBA is trying to make sure Zion gets in the playoffs and all of this. What do you expect to see from Zion when the season returns, and can they make the playoffs and get those ratings up big time?
I had from where we were when the season was postponed, March 10th or 11th, I had the Pelicans making the playoffs. Obviously, because of the remaining schedule was, I don't want to say light, but it was the easiest remaining schedule in the NBA. My thought has not changed. I still think that the Pelicans will make the playoffs. That's not to downplay Memphis. That's not to downplay Portland. I think San Antonio is going to struggle, obviously, without LaMarcus Aldridge. But I still think the Pelicans have what it takes, and I still have them making the playoffs. They were playing really, really good basketball when the season was postponed. And I can't be biased with this. And I say that because, honestly, it doesn't matter how a team was playing in March. Because now here we sit 3 or 4 months later, and now you got to start all over again. You got to start all over with your energy, your camaraderie, your chemistry, and your rhythm. So who knows how a team is going to pick up coming out of this pandemic. But I will not change my thought on certain things. One, I feel the Clippers are still going to be the NBA champions. That's who I picked when the season started. I picked the Pelicans to make the playoffs. And my third thing, I think that this season should not have an asterisk by it, but whoever is this year's NBA champion should get more credit than any NBA champion in history.
Wow. Oh, well, go ahead and expound on why you feel that way. Not because the asterisk, because I agree with you on that, but
yes, they've you know, you keep hearing asterisks and asterisks, and asterisk basically means someone has a competitive advantage. No one had a competitive advantage here. All 30 teams were hit by the coronavirus. And if you look at the circumstances that have come out of this COVID-19, whoever is the eventual NBA champion, they've had to deal with things no other champion has had to deal with. They don't have a home court advantage. They'll be in a bubble for 2 to 3 months. They'll be quarantined. There's no fans.
there's a lot that they have to overcome, as far as energy is concerned. You guys know when you walk into the arena, there's an ambiance for playoff games. There's an ambiance for Western Conference and Eastern Conference Finals games. And there is a clear-cut atmosphere for NBA Finals. None of that will be present. So you're asking players for the next 2 to 3 months to bring their own energy like a 9 o'clock a.m. AAU basketball game. They deserve credit for that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that they have to overcome is the fact that everybody should be healthy. Like all teams will be at full strength, whereas the season turns out to be a grind for a lot of teams. So I think that that's the biggest reason that there should be no asterisks and that they should get, a lot more credit.
But will every team be healthy though? That's the thing. Will every team be healthy? And that's another thing that these teams have to deal with that no one else ever has. Yeah, you have a 3 to 4 month hiatus, 60, 65 games into the season. No one's ever had to deal with that. Now you also have the other piece, even if teams are healthy, now you have players opting out and choosing to stay home. So you don't know you don't know what team you're going to get coming out of this global pandemic.
We got about a minute or two left, Antonio. Let me ask you this. The Pelicans, we know they're a young team. I know you got Drew Holiday, and maybe another veteran or two, but mostly they're a young team. Is it fair to wonder how Alonzo, how a Zion, who, could gain weight, might not have the greatest diet during the pandemic, is it fair? And how will they handle the bubble, being in that confined atmosphere for 3 months versus some of these veteran teams? Is it fair to wonder if the younger teams, including the Pelicans, might not respond best to this 3 or 4 month hiatus and then being in the bubble?
Well, I think that you can have that same thought process about all 22 teams because none of them have ever had to deal with this before. But with that being said, I also feel like the lack of a home court advantage hurts the younger teams. When you talk about the Pelicans and you talk about Memphis and some of these young teams like that, because they feed off their home crowd. You look at somebody like LeBron James. He's been through every possible playoff scenario. Kawhi Leonard, every possible playoff scenario. So home court is not as important to those guys that are battle-tested and experienced when it comes playoff time. But when you're talking about teams that are young and that are inexperienced and that feed off the energy of that home court, I think this is where the youth and the lack of experience will hurt some of these younger basketball teams.
Great stuff. That's our man, Antonio Daniels. Man, how you doing during this pandemic?
I'm good, brother. I am good. This has been a lot of family time for me, a blessing in disguise. My son just turned 2 years old. Every day I'm here. I get to put him to bed, wake up with him. So this is a blessing in disguise for me and my family.
That's great, man. I hear you. Well, we'll get you on soon, man. And we appreciate the time as always.
As always. My pleasure, fellas. Thanks.
All right, brother. All right, peace. Thanks.